you could grow a lot faster. And we're seeing it. We're seeing a lot of private equity firms come in and buy up smaller companies, smack in, 3 or 4 other companies with them over the next 3 to 5 years, and then they sell that as a larger package. And man, those companies blow up like crazy. Sometimes you see benefits drop for those employees, and so it's something that we're conscious of and try to take advantage of sometimes. But
Welcome back, y'all, to another episode of Why Y'all Working. I'm your co-host, Michael Ogunsanya.
I'm Alairé.
And we have Jeffrey Bullock here with us today, Managing Partner, Director, Leader at Clear Ridge Defense. And we're going to be asking you, some often asked questions within the government contracting space. Let's start with arguably one of the most interesting and influential this year. What does AI look like in the government contracting space when applying, just when operating outside of building the AI?
Yeah, great question. So I like to look at it not from the perspective of some of the products that we support, which include AI. But like I said, I want to stay away from anything classified. But looking internally at how we operate our company, and we bid proposals, for example. I recently came across a company, and I can't think of the name, but this is me not taking credit for what they do. But they had a pretty interesting product that was called, that they could get to pink in 48 hours. And I'll explain briefly what that means. When you bid government proposals, if you do it the Shipley way, which is a pretty well-recognized training institute that talks about how to bid government proposals, if you're looking at a 30 or 40-day request for proposal, RFP, what we do is we break that up into these color team reviews, right? It might go, you want to prepare your proposal for a blue team review that is more outline format of what you want to speak to. And then you have a blue team, this color team will review it as if they were the government reviewer. Remember, they have that eval criteria. They have the evaluation criteria. So they can grade it just like the government's going to grade it. You get feedback and you get better at it. You go from blue to pink. Pink is a little more paragraph format, maybe some napkin scribbles, but there's still work to be done. Pink team review. Then it's red team review. And then you really refine it. You're getting close to the final product. And then there's gold, and then there's white glove. So that's in 30 seconds or less, hopefully. What makes companies choose to go after proposal or not is really comes down to bid and proposal dollars and the investments that they have to do that. So a lot of what we do when we're building out our blue team and our pink team, and we're getting to pink, right, is we're using the same blurbs we use from other proposals. A lot of the stuff is our past performance, and we can reuse that and then tailor happy to glad to make sure it's aligned to this proposal. It doesn't work every time, but you can save some time if you have that repository of proposal blurbs, right? We have our own. Well, what if you had AI that had all of your blurbs, had all of your past performances, had the RFP, which has the evaluation criteria, and has section L and section M of that solicitation that tells you exactly how to organize your proposal in terms of, you have 3 pages for your cover letter. You've got 5 pages for a tech volume, 5 pages for past performance, right? These are how the government tells us to organize our proposals. AI could write it for you or get pretty close. Or in the words of this company, they could get you to pink in 48 hours. And I thought, man, if we could do that, we actually might bid stuff that we may have decided we wouldn't have bid. So I think it's going to change the game, and in terms of bidding contracts, I think it's actually great for the taxpayer because it's going to increase competition, and in turn that'll drive down costs. So I'm interested to see how that plays out. We haven't used that company, but there are a couple in the future where that might actually make sense and would save us a lot of time and allow us to pursue other things that we wouldn't have otherwise.
That's super interesting because, just like before AI, you can't just submit a proposal full of lies. So people might be worried, hey, you're using AI the wrong way. If you're telling AI to lie for you, you could do that by paying for a business manager to do that for you. So I got 2 questions for you. So let's take a step back. For people who don't know what government contracting is, again, I know it's something really big in East Coast, specifically Maryland and southern states. So what is government contracting? So
the government, either whether you're a federal civilian or a Department of Defense civilian, or you're in uniform in the military, they need help to accomplish their mission, right? I think they said that U.S. government is the largest procurer of supplies in the world, supplies and services. So government contracting is just that. It's the government buying people, products, training, services to accomplish their missions. As a DoD, Department of Defense government contractor, we're generally providing services, training, or products to our government customers. So it could be any of those things. It could be services as in I want to buy 20 software developers for roughly 5 years, or I want to buy 20 training courses that I'm going to task you with over the next 2 years, or I want you to build me a satellite that you're going to fly to the moon, right? Something like that. That's government contracting. What Clearance Defense does is a specific part of that, right? Most of what we do is services. It's buying staff members for a period of time. And so we have training and we want to get into products, and that's part of our growth plan. But for now, it's mostly the staffing piece of that element. So a lot of our work is winning those contracts that says, like right now we have a Marine Corps contract and they want about 95 people doing a range of cyber things across their organization. And so we and our team of subcontractors are finding the people, and we're staffing those people and keeping them happy so that the government gets what they need. If that answers your question.
No, it does. Yeah. It brings me to my second question. Just because, there's caterers, people that cater food, they can have government contracts as well. But on the opposite side, just so people know, again, how AI and just how big of a market this is, again, you don't have to reveal any of your successful proposals and contracts, but even the entire DoD spend for this year down to some of the contracts you've seen. Can you share what that size looks like for some of these firms winning?
In terms of dollar amount?
Yeah.
Oh gosh, I would be horrible at giving you an estimate. I've always been pretty bad at following the money. It's going to differ by organization. You're going to see some organizations adopting AI, example, better than others. You're going to see some organizations that it gets bad. You've got some big government contractors that are providing a lot of people for a contract where AI might not need all of those people, but you've got lobbyists, congressmen. There's a lot going on there, so it's hard to break down those walls and those barriers. So I wish I had a better number for you, but I think it's more colossal than people think.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, lobbying, building certain contracting in certain areas, winning business. According to AI, last year the DoD awarded $470 billion in contracts just last fiscal year, 11.5% bump from 2022. So
wow, that's
big
impressive.
numbers.
Well, speaking of that, and knowing that you guys don't really need investment to still do the things that you do, for the companies that are or even aren't, is it really necessary for GovCon contractors, entrepreneurs to take money? What have you seen not work in the industry as far as taking investment versus bootstrapping it like how you've done?
Yeah, so I don't think there's any wrong way to do it. I'll tell you that we made the conscious decision up front that we wanted to we didn't want to borrow any money other than having a line of credit to help make payroll before the government pays you, right? Because that can happen. We didn't want any real capital investment in the company, but I could see it going either way, right? Always wonder, what if we did have that capital investment? What more could we have done, right? We've been on contracts where we make an offer to a candidate and they get an offer from another company that's a sub on that same contract, and they were always paying them a couple $1,000s more a year than us in their offer. I'm like, how are they doing this? We're taking a loss on this person because we think it's a strategic investment, but they're always beating us out. And we have low overhead. There's no way they're doing this. Well, if they made that capital investment up front and you take your first 10, 20 people that join your company and maybe you're taking a loss. It might not be a big loss, but it's enough to beat out those other companies. And then you kind of flip it as you continue to grow. We could have grown a lot faster in the 9 years that we've been in business, right? Or take another approach. They've always said in government contracting companies like ours, if you have a really strong business development arm combined with a really strong recruitment arm, it just works hand in hand. You win the contracts, you find the people. You win the contracts, you find the people. And what if what we could do if we had 4 more recruiters, and 3 more business developers full time? Wow, things we could do. But that's a huge investment. And so we're taking a close look at our 2025 budget. And now that we're in the space that we're in, I think we're ready to make some of those strategic investments. But I think if you had the capital investment, you could grow a lot faster. And we're seeing it. We're seeing a lot of private equity firms come in and buy up smaller companies, smack in 3 or 4 other companies with them over the next 3 to 5 years, and then they sell that as a larger package, and those companies blow up like crazy. Sometimes you see benefits drop for those employees, and so it's something that we're conscious of and try to take advantage of sometimes. But I could see both ways. We've always wondered what we could do if we had a big investor come in and just help us tackle on that recruitment and BD arm of the company.
I appreciate you mentioning that as well. So, like, can you tell us a little bit about the demand, the client demand in the landscape that it is right now? Like, are you seeing any particular lean towards specific types of individuals or specific products or services? Can you tell us a little bit more?
Yeah, I guess I can only speak for our customer, which is the Maryland cyber customer. A lot of it is tools driven. A lot of it is high-end staff that has some sort of polygraph. And so it's really specific, and I wouldn't say it applies to all government contracting. But it's been interesting to watch the market over the last 5 years. At one point in time, it was not enough talent for the positions that existed for, say, a cyber planner or a tool developer or a help desk technician or something like, or cyber threat intelligence analyst. And then there's other times we were fortunate that with our recent prime contract win, there were often 4 candidates for every opening we have. And while that's horrible, that's unfortunate for the job market in terms of those individuals finding the right opportunity at the salary that they feel that they're worth. It drives the cost of talent down. Right? We've had situations where we want to staff a position, we have 4 candidates, and the best candidate is demanding a much higher salary than the 3 next candidates. And the second best candidate is still pretty rocking. And we say, hey, we're going to offer it to the next person, and we do. And then that first person comes back and they're like, well, I'll take the lower salary. It's because they want the work, they want the contract, and there's only so many contracts. And so it's an interesting time in the market right now. In terms of what I think pays the most for our line of business, tool developers, right? Software developers are high end. They've got a polygraph and can do C, C++, Python, Java, JavaScript, assembly. They can do really well in the Central Maryland region.
That's great, and thank you for noting that, because I think that also for our younger audience that is maybe still in college and maybe looking at getting involved, because I know UMBC for one is one of the feeder schools to NSA and some of the service components as well. Is there anything you want to speak to as far as what they should be kind of looking into in terms of a career if government contracting is something that they want to go into?
Yeah, great question. And we're actually working to kind of establish a similar relationship with Carroll Community College. And what I've recommended to a lot of folks in those programs is one thing is that we can't do is we can't sponsor a polygraph. And even if we've offered the government that we'll pay them to provide it, it's something we can't do. And so a lot of, entry-level new graduates from Carroll Community College are suggesting, hey, just go to USA Jobs, apply for a job at National Security Agency, apply for a job at US Cyber Command, get your foot in the door, have them give you the poly, network, learn what you can do, spend a couple years there. We'll still be around and we'll be ready for you. But it gets you in the door, even if it's not the most exciting thing. In those 2 organizations, it's really about getting your foot in the door, and they really encourage moving throughout the different offices so you can understand how the whole system works. And I think that's really important for someone. If I was looking at me, 21 years old, coming out of Penn State, I learned a lot going to SPAY and learning what I did as a Navy civilian. And I don't think I would have done it another way that led me to where we're at with Clear Ridge. We started Clear Ridge when I was 28. And so I learned a lot in that 7 years that I don't think we'd be where we're at today if I didn't take the time to do that. So even if someone's going back for like a midlife second career, go back, get the degree, take an online Python course, go get a job at the Maryland cyber customer for a couple years, get the polygraph, and then we'll be ready for you. And there's 100 other companies that'll be dying to hire you. So that if that was younger me, that's probably what I would recommend. I wish I was stronger on the developer side.
And to flip that question also for the entrepreneurs as well, knowing that what you went through back then, a couple years ago to what the environment is today, where would you be placed if you had to start all over today with Clear Ridge, and what avenue would you take?
What would I do different? Yeah, oh gosh. I'd have to think on that one. I think there's some proprietary stuff I probably will keep to myself, but I think there's, some of those lessons learned in partnerships, how we hire would change a little bit. I think some of the where do we invest in the early years would change. We migrated to a really impressive accounting system 4 years in. We would have done it 1 year in, but it was way too expensive. But man, we've spent a lot more money doing it down the road than if we would have done it sooner. I know that's specific to our industry, but something I recommend to everybody that I did and I would do it again is SBA.gov has a business plan template, and I would recommend you download it and complete it. It might never see the light of day and only yourself will ever see it, but read through it, answer every question. If you think a question doesn't apply to you, you're wrong. You're kidding yourself. Every question in that template applies, every single section. I still look back at that some days, and I have a cleaner version that the banks need to see, right? They always want to see business plans for credit lines, but that blunt business plan of how, no crap, you're going to start this thing, you got to have some thoughts there. I think I would do that all over again.
That was great. And I appreciate you mentioning, kind of SBA having resources as well. Is there any other sort of resources that helped you kind of guide your, development in terms of the business and what you were going to do with the product lines, et cetera?
A lot of it was mentor driven. I met an individual that had referred me to another individual that referred me to the bank that we use, which is very friendly with government contracting, M&T Bank, shout out to them. There was recommendations for, there's a company that does insurance for government contractors, right? If you go out and try and buy professional business general liability insurance, cyber liability insurance, it's crazy expensive for an IT startup. But what if we tell them, no, all of our people are embedded in government facilities using the government systems. They're not using ours. No one's going to hack us. We're using their systems and then we're done for the day. We go home. This company understands that. They went out and found an underwriter that understands that some of these GovCon IT startups are all embedded in government facilities using their systems. And so I think we got everything covered, including workers' comp, for $1,300 a year when we started out. And I know that's a lot of money, but that was much more affordable than some of the other quotes we were getting. So that was helpful. I got to come up with the name again. I already forgot what that company is. So the bank, insurance, financial providers, benefits brokers, that was all helpful. UMBC was great. When we moved in there, they had a lot of resources for government contractors, setting up your accounting system, the stuff you don't want to think about, but you got to do to run a company. That was very helpful. They helped us with access to the talent base, right? This is what led to us bringing on Alairé. If you haven't heard, Alairé worked for us at the startup of the company, got us off the ground, got a lot more than I had hoped for. We had hired slow for that one. We wanted someone to do some business ops for us and some recruiting, and we got a lot more than we asked for just because of the degree that Alairé was pursuing at the time. And you kind of injected yourself into every part of the company because you wanted to, and that really helped get us off the ground. So UMBC in general was helpful. Going out there and finding the next Alairé Jameson would be greatly helpful for any startup in the UMBC area.
Hey man, piggyback off that, thanks Alairé for helping run MindStand as well. I had a BD. You know your way around a business plan.
I appreciate that, man. Thank you guys. And yeah, I think that's a great place to end our questions. Jeff, wanted to give you some space coming up on time here for you to ask us any questions if you have any. If not, we thank you for your time. Appreciate it. And, thank you for our audience. I hope you guys have all the knowledge that you need about general government contracting. And if you need to get in touch with Jeff is here. He's a resource here in Maryland for those that are based here. Even if you're not here and you want to come and see what's going on, feel free to come down. I know Jeff does a couple talks. He was the AFCA. You had a talk recently with Kaki and a couple other companies as well, right? So I know you do some speaking engagements too. So yeah. Yeah,
no additional questions. I learned a little bit more about both of you through the call. I appreciate the time. And again, please feel free to use me as a resource, and I'm happy to help anyone listening if they've got questions about our space or similar spaces. I don't pretend to be the expert in this. I know what worked for us and what didn't. And I'm happy to share that with anyone that asks, but I don't claim to be the expert by any means on all government contracting. So thanks for your time. Michael, interested in following up at some point and learn a little bit more about your background, more than what we talked about. That would be great.
That'd be cool. Yeah, I would love that.
For sure.
Fantastic.
Definitely. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it. This has been another episode of While Y'all Working.
Thanks all.